We are so freaking back. Welcome to Sixers Postgame Live. Sixers get the best win of the season, 109-105. We're breaking it down. Joining me, he is Sean Bernard. Go give him a follow on Twitter. Best Sixers follow, period, there is. What's up, Sean?
I am gassed up after that one. That was the best game of the entire year. Joel Embiid is back. Tyrese Maxey's back. He's the real deal number 2 for this team. I thought that was a game that they very easily could have fumbled and looked like was going to be the case throughout those first 3 quarters, specifically the endings of them, that they really fell apart. But you know what? They found a way. That was a big-time win in a lot of different areas. So I am hyped up after that one.
Oh, my God, man. Just when you think they're out, man, they bring you back because – the Embiid, the Maxey duo was lights out. Guys, if you're watching us live, please be sure to comment your thoughts on the game. Steven says, how are we supposed to win a game when Hield cannot hit an open 3? Not a good game for the Buddy Hield fan group because it was rough.
And I'm one of them. I'll put my hand up. I still remain on the Buddy Island because I do got to believe it'll swing back at some point, but it's dark right now. It's tough right now. And he's just missing some bad looks. And that's why he's out there, is to knock those down. I do think there is a little bit of a two-way street here that I don't like. Every time he's on the court, Joel Embiid should be as well. That I don't like the minutes that he's playing without Joel. I don't see the purpose in that, really. So I do think that Nurse could do a little better job staggering that. But the bottom line is he's just straight up not played good enough.
There was a stretch in this game, I think it was like second quarter, when the Sixers had a good lead and really could have pushed it. And Hield had open shots and was just missing. Missing. And it killed him. And as always, the Sixers, for whatever reason, just get killed at the end of every single freaking quarter, Sean. And it's so frustrating. We saw it. We've seen it. It's the pattern. Marshall,
I do have those numbers here as far as the end of the quarter for the Sixers team. It was every single quarter. That to break it down exactly, they were outscored 10-4 in the final minute and 3 seconds of the first quarter, 7-0 in the final 54.1 seconds of the second quarter, and then 8-0 in the final minute 40 of the third quarter. So by those numbers, that's a 21-6 run in the final 3 minutes of the 3 quarters. That just can't happen, but they did find a way to win.
It's amazing, despite it's really the Miami Heat zone. It's death taxes and the Sixers not being able to adjust to the Heat zone and the rebounding, man. It's the Sixers rebounding was so bad. So bad, in fact, that 35-year-old Kevin Love goes out there, Paul Reed,
charges.
Nick Batum, they have KJ Martin, they have no answer for Kevin Love, who just ate up the Sixers on the interior, man. It was really hard to watch, but that's that. Let's get into some comments before we gush over Tyrese Maxey, who had arguably one of his best games of the season here.
Ever.
Buddy Island is crazy, says Marshall Lynch. I'm a Buddy Hield guy too, but I'm starting to lean towards Kelly Oubre Jr. Island just a little bit if that contract is reasonable.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm still Kelly over Buddy. That, to me, that's not the argument. I've been a pro Buddy Hield guy. What I'm disappointed in specifically is I thought the skill set would mesh with Joel much cleaner. We saw it with JJ Redick, saw it with Seth Curry. I thought he'd be much more cut from that archetype of player, and it just hasn't looked that way. And it sucks because you can squint and see it in certain moments, and maybe it gets better over time. I'm not closing the door, but I am with you that Kelly Oubre is the story of really this team of late, that he just makes winning plays, that the little stare down after just
the flex.
Yeah, the flex, the stare down after really impressive body control to not fumble that ball away, to keep a guy on his hip and find a way to dunk that. He was good on both ends of the floor today. That 3-pointer to put them up 1 was absolutely massive. Kelly's the man, dude, and that's a guy that will never be on a minimum contract ever again, nor does he deserve to be.
I agree. We'll get into Kelly in just a little bit. Marshawn Lynch says, Siri play clap your hands, everybody. Real question, says Big L, are the Sixers legitimately back? We'll get to that in a little bit. All right, let's get into the star of the game, and that was the return of Tyrese freaking Maxey. Maxey in this one was outstanding. 3-level score. That he showed that from start to finish. There were times when he was hitting step backs, fadeaways in the mid range from three. Here's his shot chart. Sean, what do we see from Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah, and I thought the playmaking was even as impressive as the scoring. That there obviously was the confidence in the scoring, but 11 assists tonight's really impressive. We saw some flashes of the two-man action with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, the feel for each other, and that being the first time that they've stepped on the floor together since January, and the fact that they were able to pick it up and see a little bit of that, and just kind of the maturity and confidence where there were stretches during this game where it was straight up Tyrese Maxey going, I'm going to score on this possession. I'm getting to my spot and I'm getting a bucket. And you know what? He did that. Like there were a couple mid-range shots specifically that I was really impressed, not just with his ability to get the shot off with the behind the backs, the between the legs, the way that he was dicing up and getting there, and then just hitting it over a very good Heat defense. So for me, these are the type of moments that we should remember as this like continued rise for Tyrese Maxey to stardom. He's ready. He's ready to step into the spotlight, and he's proven it once again tonight. So all across the board, terrific game by Tyrese.
Tyrese Maxey is absolutely the key to beating the Miami Heat in the playoffs. No doubt about it. The way he can break down a zone, the way he can utilize his speed, weave through the mid-range. There was one shot, I think in the second half, where he like weaved through the mid-range area, just hit a ridiculously difficult shot. He was just cooking, man. Look at all that green. I love the confidence we saw from Tyrese Maxey tonight. How many shot attempts did he have in the fourth quarter too? Because I feel like we saw it. I mean, he shot 6 times in the fourth quarter, 3 of 6, 2 of 2 from mid-range. Tyrese Maxey, man, just looking. I mean, and this kind of feeds into the Joel Embiid thing too, because no one was more happy that Joel Embiid was back than Tyrese Maxey. The gravity that Joel Embiid has on this offense, on this team, is so massive. And you could see it, like from Maxey running off screens to getting open shots. Let's roll into Joel Embiid, who understandably looks sluggish at times. I didn't like the aggressive play by Joel Embiid. There were times when he was diving on the floor. There were times when Bam was falling on his other uninjured knee, and I'm having a heart attack watching this game. But Joel Embiid put up a respectable 29 points, 11 of 25. He was a minus 19. What were your thoughts on Joel?
Yeah, he's clearly working himself back into shape, and that's still the biggest thing to me. No diving for loose balls right now, Joel. That should be made crystal clear to him. That was scary. I did not like that whatsoever. But at the same time, that's kind of why we all love him, that he is a guy that does leave it on the line. Since he's come into the league, been a guy who's never been afraid to jump into the crowd. And while that's frustrating, and again, I want to harp on that it should be straight up banned for at least the remainder of the regular season from him. But overall, like, we're seeing the tangible steps that I thought early on in this game, he looked sharper than he did, at least in his debut. I will say from the Heat's perspective, it was clear that they had on the scouting report of this guy's not quite in shape yet, that they were running and gunning, they were pushing in transition. And that's the biggest reason why he was such a minus in the plus minus and really where the Heat found a great deal of impact. But these are just steps toward him getting back to his MVP self. And he still finished with 29 points today. The gravity that he has still matters. And defensively, I'll once again harp that I think he changes the game more on that end as well. When there are the half-court sets, just his ability to bother shots at the rim, it's more about the ones that he turns away or impacts than it is one that he directly blocks. But he is this anchor of that defense, and I thought he made that impact felt tonight.
Yeah, here's his shot chart. He had 3 assists in this game, and I think that's a crime. I think it's a straight crime. The Sixers were getting good looks in this game.
Yeah.
I thought, Sean, for a big part of this game, the Sixers shooters were just not hitting. I mean, obviously, it was the Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid show. In the first quarter, Maxey and Embiid combined for 28 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 0 turnovers. In the first half, 45 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, 18 of 28. And I thought Joel Embiid, for the better part, was getting the ball out fast. It just really was until late in the game they finally got their head out of the ass and figured some stuff out. And really it was the Sixers defense that kind of turned this around in big moments. But any other thoughts on Joel before we get into some comments?
Yeah, I mean, the Heat are traditionally a team that, not just Joel or not just the Sixers, that the way that they do switch defensive formations, the way that they switch into that zone and drop into the full court press and kind of change looks throughout the game, it's difficult to go against. And I do think that this Sixers team in the first half did a really nice job of responding to that. And I do think Joel was at a great deal of the epicenter of that. And then when the second half is really when they kind of hit that wall, was that they did have a struggle with adjusting with it. So I did think it was strange how like it felt like the processing and the decision making in the first half for that Heat zone was pretty much perfect, even though the shots weren't going down, that they were getting the looks that they needed to. And the second half, I thought they were bothered by it. So I did think that was weird. But for the most part, I still think it's a massive win by Sixers standpoints.
Oh,
and obviously the results are the results.
Yeah, the only like real, I mean, we'll get into this when we get to team grades. The only real issue I had were the rebounds. I mean, some of those were just effort, effort things, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Steven says Buddy poops his pants when someone closes out on him. Nick says we're winning the chip. Barry says sign Oubre yesterday. Oh, that's interesting. Is there any concern about that contract with Kelly Oubre Jr.?
It does feel like it's like set up to be a trap contract of like you give him. I think I mean he should not touch Tobias money as much as I love Kelly. For me, like the ballpark of what I'm hoping for and is expecting is probably in like the 3-year like $12 to $20 million range for Kelly. I don't think he gets more than that. Maybe top end 25 mil a year. I think that's a lot for Kelly Oubre, and that's kind of the price point where I start to get ready to walk. It does feel like we're getting set up for a letdown. Because that was like the book on Kelly Oubre coming into this year, is that he does have losing habits. He gets tunnel vision, poor shot selection, all these things. And while we see that at moments, it's still the effort that he brings, the athleticism that he has, the frame, the willingness to just dig in defensively is stuff that I did not expect from him. So I'm in on Kelly Oubre. I do think that the goal of this season for him was to rebuild his value and then max out that potential from a contract standpoint at the end of the year. But I do think he likes Philadelphia. I do think he has like a clear role on this team. And even like beyond the normal stuff, like I didn't see it as much tonight, largely due to the Heat defense, but there was some like 2-man action with Joel that I saw in the debut that like opened my eyes of like that raises his ceiling as a player a significant amount. So I'm all in on Kelly. I hope the number doesn't get too steep.
Yeah, I want him to play within the offense with Kelly Oubre. I mean, just as much as I want Joel Embiid to play more within the offense as well. It's not just Kelly Oubre Jr., but like there are times that I saw during this game when Kelly's just out of control. There is no reason Kelly Oubre Jr. should be putting the ball on the floor and trying to create like George Niang driving A to B. It does not look good. He doesn't create for others. Kelly Oubre Jr. is at his best in transition, driving to the basket, Embiid finding him under the basket. That's when Kelly Oubre Jr. just looks terrific with his athleticism and stuff. And he had some big moments in this fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
Let's get some comments and we'll talk more about Kelly Oubre. What seed do you think the Sixers can get? I mean, there are half game out of Miami Heat with the 7 seed. Can they get to that 6 seed, Sean?
I think there's a chance. And the biggest thing that I'll lead with for noting is the Pacers and Heat play each other on Sunday, which will be a huge matchup in terms of standings all around here. This result tonight keeps the door open for them climbing to that 6 seed. That if they had lost tonight, we more or less would have had to accept the fate of a play-in tournament. And that still is possible. But the other thing I'll point to is the Sixers have a very favorable schedule from here on out. We're talking about games against the Memphis Grizzlies, the Brooklyn Nets, the Detroit Pistons, winnable games from here on out. So if they can take care of their business, I do think that this is within reach. Again, that Pacers Heat game is going to play a huge factor on Sunday. But I think the Sixers, like, I'm not ruling out the 6 seed as much as it has been made out to be. I'm excited to check it after this. But according to Basketball Reference, before the Joel Embiid return, they had a 5% chance at climbing to the 6 seed. After that first win, it jumped up to 8.5%. I would expect that at least doubled after this game. And frankly, I would think a little more. But I'm not closing the door on the 6 seed. I think there's a chance.
All right. Man, we are so back.
We
are so back, Sean. This next week of basketball is going to be really fun. Mark chimes in, says Paul Reed had a lot of clutch plays, excellent defense. I really agree. Barry says give Oubre his flowers. He was clutch in the fourth. The steal, the 3-point shooting, the drives to the basket. Nick says, I know I always say we don't win this game without Paul Reed, but tonight it stood out. Defense was unlocked. And I think, as I said earlier, like the Sixers defense had some really big moments in this game that really, in some respects, fought the refs too, because I feel like I don't know what it is with the NBA refereeing. Like, I don't know if it is like this with every other team as well, but like, I feel like the refs just have such a difficult time with the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, we say the same thing every single game, I feel like, over the last few weeks, is that the soft calls go the Sixers and nothing happens to the Heat or the other team. And it was really bad tonight. There were some stretches where the Heat were getting soft calls and getting to the line and nothing to benefit the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, I think Kelly Oubre more or less secured his fate that he will never get a call ever again by cursing out every member of the referees and their family members a couple games ago. So got to take that for what it's worth. The one that stood out to me from a refereeing standpoint today is it felt like he just like glitched the referee where it ended up being a jump ball, but both Kyle Lowry and Joel Embiid kind of had, I think it was Terry Rozier at that point. Like Embiid was literally fully around. It might have been Jimmy Butler. And the ref is just kind of like watching it happen for a full like 3-4 seconds. And it's like, I don't even know what we're doing here. So kind of a weirdly refereed game, but whatever.
Embiid stopped Butler and Scary Terry at the rim several times. He owns the front court. Terry Rozier was a monster, man. Like,
he's good.
I wish that guy was on the Sixers. That was like my one trade target. Joe says, great game. If I was an opponent in the playoffs, I would be scared to play the Sixers. That's why we're here, man.
Second most dangerous team in the East.
No question.
Yeah.
Grease the poles. Pump the brakes. Oubre, 3 years, $40 million.
I would sign it today.
Embiid, too many minutes in this one. Totally gassed. Great B-ball Paul game again. Maxey's so good. Todd says Kelly Oubre was outstanding. We're back on the block after the timeout. Sixers defense last few minutes really tightened up, especially Joel's. They made the Heat, especially Terry Rozier, work hard to get enough space for a decent shot. When does Shake Milton come back? I was having shades of like Game 6 Shake Milton with Buddy Hield, man. It was ugly. It was ugly.
Shout out Haywood Highsmith today, by the way.
I love Haywood, man. So I was covering the Blue Coats at that time. That was like peak, like me going to watch the Blue Coats and got to interview him. I'm just so happy for him, man.
He's like a real, he's a real legit player for them, no doubt about it. He's a good player for them.
Yep. All right. Tobias's net negative effect was absent. Tobias should not be starting on this basketball team if everyone's healthy. And then we still have Melton to come back. Like you saw it. It looked like that first quarter was beautiful. Yeah. Like the ball was moving. There's still room for growth. There's times when the ball stops, and that needs to be fixed. But it looks so much better without Tobias.
Yeah, I don't know how Nick Nurse could watch this Sixers team get off to a 10-0 start and then a 17-2 start with this roster as it is, this lineup as it is, and think Tobias Harris needs to be put back in here. That if the decisions are purely being made on the best interests of this Sixers team, which should be everyone's job at this point, is to keep Kelly Oubre in the starting lineup. That you cannot make the argument to me that with who the roster is built around, with Joel Embiid, with Tyrese Maxey, with everyone else that is coming into fold, that Tobias Harris is a better fit than Kelly Oubre. It's just not. That the athleticism, the cutting, everything that he does and brings to a basketball court is more important than what Tobias does. And like, I don't fully expect it to happen. I think like 95% chance that Tobias is right back in the starting lineup with things resume.
It's higher, man. It's higher.
Yeah, probably. But I will say that like, I do think like as we push towards more of these closing lineups, I'm a little bit more optimistic that Nick Nurse does pull the plug, that there's so many options that he could go with as far as who can actually close with. And I do think that like when Tobias was at his low point this year, playing the worst basketball that we've really ever seen him play, at that point, the Sixers were so shorthanded that there wasn't really the opportunity to bench him. There weren't like the legitimate options behind him. Now the team is back healthy, fully constructed, and fully intended on winning. So now's the time to make those types of moves.
Yeah, I fully agree, man. now's the time to get going here for the playoffs because, I mean, Oubre in the second half, and let's get into Kelly Oubre Jr. here, has been just lights out. Whereas like Tobias has had some big moments in the first half, then he kind of dissolves in the second half. The pattern is now that Kelly Oubre Jr. has been lighting it up in the second half.
And back-to-back games real quick. Like that three-pointer and then that lay-in with the flex after, that 5-point swing more or less won the Sixers the game tonight. And like last game, it was a similar effect that it was Joel Embiid kind of bringing them home at the tail end, but it was that Oubre burst right before that brought the Sixers in the game against the Thunder. That those type of spurts, like you're not getting that from Tobias. You're just not. And like Oubre being capable of that, it's necessary to getting wins. It really is.
Over the last 10 games, Kelly Oubre is averaging 19 points a game, shooting 40.6% from the field. That's not great, but he's a net positive. He's the third highest scorer on the Sixers, but that also includes, 2 games from Joel Embiid. I mean, he needs to be on the court. Kelly Oubre Jr., everything we've seen is trending towards him being on the court in the fourth quarter. And that's what we're talking about here. It doesn't really matter who starts. It matters who's on the court with 6 minutes remaining. It's got to be Kelly Oubre in that athleticism. Nick said, I lose brain cells every time KJ Martin's on the floor. I mean, KJ had a big bucket there.
He did. He almost closed. I thought they were going to close with him today. He was in with like less than 2 minutes left to play, which I didn't fully understand what that was about. I think the KJ bump today was because Buddy was playing bad. That I think that was the second half minutes that KJ Martin saw. And I do get that. I understand that, especially the way the Heat were running and gunning in transition, the athleticism. I don't fully see it with KJ. I like that, like, the athleticism is nice at times, and sometimes he'll bang a lob that looks good. But yeah, I'm not a KJ Martin guy. I'm very surprised how much that we saw him on the floor tonight, but he did have a big bucket to his credit.
I'll be honest. I'm disappointed by KJ Martin. I thought he was a lot better before he came here, but there is some PJ Tucker in him that makes me really mad. You know what I mean?
He's a dunker spot guy is kind of what he is, which is disappointing. Like, he is a lob threat. Like, he is a guy that can scrap an offensive rebound, and defensively he's been mostly very good. So like, I'll give him a little bit of love there, but he's not this like young high potential guy that I think I kind of was hoping he would be.
Haywood Highsmith makes me another tick angry at Glenn. Love the ball movement. Batum had some ups and downs in this game, man. And speaking of PJ Tucker, 0 points, but he did have 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block, and he was a plus 14. That's the Nick Batum experience, man. Any thoughts on Batum?
Yeah, it would be nice if he hit a couple of jumpers or 3-pointers, some catch and shoot opportunities. I do think the playmaking is like a legit thing. And I think like we talked about this a lot at the start of the season when Joel Embiid was there, how important he is as an entry passer. That's now all back in full swing and back to being at the forefront of our minds. I don't think this is a fluke, a 7-assist game from Nico Batum. I think this is maybe not 7, but I think we're going to see 4 or 5 assist games on a pretty much nightly basis by him. So I do think that is worth noting. And defensively, I thought he was pretty solid again. That like this, like he was diving on the floor, leaving effort. So I'll give a little bit more love to Batum than probably most will.
It's amazing how much better Batum looks with Embiid on the floor. Like that's price there. It's he's the only guy that can throw a goddamn entry pass. Like that. That was the theme also of this game. Like nobody can throw an entry pass, but that high low game with Batum is why he's there, man.
I think Lowry and Batum are the 2 smartest players that Joel Embiid's ever played with. Just like from a pure basketball decision-making standpoint, both Lowry and Batum just get it from like a veteran savvy that we really haven't seen. There's been a lot of very dumb basketball players surrounding Embiid, and it's nice to kind of have that change up.
Yeah, I fully agree. Ryan says, is there a chance we see KJ in those lineups to close out the game? It's going to depend on matchups. When are we going to get Rocco back? Is Rocco dead? Like, where is he?
He's doing workouts on court now, which I guess is a sign of something positive, but it's kind of cut from the same Joel Embiid mold where there's not this like clarity on what even exactly is going on. Like at least with DeAnthony Melton, we know it's like a lumbar spine issue that he's dealing with trying to come back, but neither of these guys, they have concrete like timeline for when they'll return. they absolutely could use Robert Covington and DeAnthony Melton. Both those guys would play like significant minutes on this team.
Yeah, especially Roko would have big minutes in this game, dealing with that length. Batum over Toby, absolutely, no doubt. Sean put the hex on Glenn last night, and I thought he would get the blame.
Yeah, I did declare the Bucks dead last night.
Once I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I'm right there with you, Phil. I'm right there with you. I was like, Embiid's probably not coming back. Oh, he's back. We are all back.
By the way, just a quick note to the people that said don't even bring Joel Embiid back this year. I can't believe people were actually saying that, of there's no reason to bring this guy back. I'll say it again. The Sixers are the second most dangerous team in the Eastern Conference. There's not a single team that should want this team in a first-round matchup. I don't care if you're the Cavs, the Bucks, the Magic. None of these teams want to play the Sixers right now.
Yeah, no. Quinn says no one on the team rebounds. They got out-rebounded by the Heat tonight by 10, and it does not feel like that whatsoever. It feels like 20. Yeah. Like, there were times in this game, and I'm surprised the Heat only had 2 extra field goal attempts than the Sixers in this one. It does not pass the eye test whatsoever.
Felt like a bunch of like backbreakers were coming out of those offensive rebounds too. The Heat missed a couple of those that were like offensive rebound, kick out 3, and ended up being a miss. Those would have like changed the tide of the game. There were several of those that were left on the table.
Yeah. We have applications filled, and Batum and Hield are hired as our donut brothers. Roko has the worst bone bruise in the history of bone bruises. Is that our secret weapon in the playoffs when we match up against the Celtics?
I mean, in all reality, like he probably is the best option to guard a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown. That it is like Robert Covington from a pure just like physicality standpoint and skill set standpoint, that like his hands are legit. Like the deflections that he creates, his ability to kind of just disrupt opponents, that's the real deal. And that's been the reputation of him. So I do think that's like our best bet on a Celtics led team. So hopefully that bone bruise is at least ready by the time they face Boston.
Quinn says thoughts on Buddy. We touched on Buddy. It was really bad tonight. We need to, like Sean said, see him get more playing time with Joel Embiid on the court. But the streakiness with the outside shot has not been good. I'm sorry, but bone bruises take 8 weeks at the most, unless you have Stone Man syndrome. All right. Any other thoughts before we get into player of the game?
Nothing too concrete on tonight. I will give a little love to Kyle Lowry, that he didn't jump out in the box score or have any real like key moments that I thought he changed the game, but it just feels like he's constantly in the right spot and making a winning play. And like I thought he did a real nice job defensively on Jimmy Butler, which is a tough ask for a guy who's significantly bigger than him. Specifically, I thought Butler tried to take him to the post a couple times and Lowry just wasn't having it. And like that's a weapon. So this game obviously meant something to Lowry with his history with the Heat. I thought he brought it tonight. And I do think that like he's going to make the type of plays that swing a playoff series or swing a playoff game. And I'm just happy to have him on this Sixers team. So I do apologize a little bit for the concern if he would have anything left in the tank, because he absolutely still does.
Raheem says, what shape would Roko be in if he came back for the playoffs? That's a great question.
Yeah, and the only difference there, like I think we've talked about this a lot with Joel. We're talking about with Joel with kind of the mindset of you're asked to be the number one on this team, the guy, the driving force on both ends of the floor. For Covington, it's not as big of a deal if you're asking go play 6 minutes here, 6 minutes there, 3 minutes there. That like if you can just get that out of him, that's a win. So obviously, like I don't expect him to be ready to dive back in and play to his full force, but even a couple minutes here and there, if you could buy from him, would still help this team.
Yeah. Speaking of final thoughts, Campaign had a rough game. I feel like not the best Campaign game. What does the rotation look like when Melton comes back? Because everything we're hearing is that he's on the way. It should be coming back soon. So you have Lowry, you have Maxey, obviously. Where does this go with Melton? Would you play Melton over Campaign? Because Payne's had some big offensive moments.
He has. I think Melton's definitely a guy you play over Campaign. That like the two-way impact. Melton defensively is night and day. Like Campaign's going to be a guy that come playoff time, they're going to be circled and saying, bring him over here in a pick. Let's get a switch and let me attack this guy. Like that's going to be in every play possession when you play these top end teams. I like Campaign. He's been better than I've expected on the Sixers team, but I do think like when the rotation's narrow, there's going to be some tough decisions. I do think he's going to be a guy on the outside looking in, and that doesn't mean there might not be one specific game or a couple opportunities where you do need his shooting or a guy that is just a spark off the bench. But I do think when it's all said and done, that Campaign's not a guy that cracks his playoff rotation.
I agree. All right. Any other thoughts before we get into player of the game? We good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Let's do this. Let's get into player of the game. All right, Sixers Heat player of the game. I'm going to lead off because I know you're probably going to go with Max. Give me Joel Embiid in this one because I feel like he's starting to read the double team and the triple teams a little bit better, which is absolutely massive. Yeah, he only had 3 assists, but there were wide open looks in this one, and the Sixers shooters just were horrible for big stretches of this one. The play where Joel Embiid split the triple team and hit the floater from the free throw line, that was a ridiculous shot.
Never seen him take it before.
That's the play that I wish like Ben Simmons had. Like if Ben Simmons had that kind of floater within like 16 feet, it would be over. But who's your player of the game?
Yeah, I got to roll with Tyrese Maxey. And to me, it was between Maxey and Oubre tonight, but I do think Maxey's the story. And one thing I especially wanted to note is like, the last time that Tyrese Maxey played the Heat this year was on Christmas. He played 43 minutes in that game, had just 12 points, shot 4 of 20 from the field. And we saw kind of a similar thing with the Celtics throughout the season, that he struggled earlier in this year. And then without Joel, him looking like a legit number 1 option against Boston. These are high-level playoff defenses that he's finding ways to pick apart. And I think the decision-making has been better. The step-back threes are looking automatic at times. The playmaking's improved. He's just checking every single box that you could hope for. And he's been like the stabilizing force for this team in a way that I can't really believe is like a reality for this kid. So for me, it's Tyrese Maxey, 1 rebound away from his first career triple-double tonight. He was great across the board. Got to give him love. So Tyrese Maxey, player of the game.
I mean, they were the top 2 stars, obviously, but like what's so impressive about that is the Miami Heat defense literally game plans against Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Their entire game plan is to force role players to hit shots and make your role players beat you. Our role players didn't hit shots, and we still won. Joel Embiid and Maxey had 66 points combined in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impressive stuff. And Maxey just keeps growing up, man. It's really impressive, just like the way that he keeps taking his game up to new levels on the biggest stage. So I thought he went toe-to-toe with all these guys tonight, and they definitely don't win this game without him. So yeah, shout out to Tyrese Maxey. He continues to be even better than we ever could have hoped.
Eastern Conference Finals preview?
It's possible. And by the logic here, I'm assuming we're talking about a Heat Celtics first round, which is very much on the table and a possibility. And that's been the Celtics kryptonite in past years. So we could see that being the case. I do think, like, if I'm ranking the top most dangerous teams in the East, Boston, I still put at number 1. I would put the Sixers and Heat as the 2 and 3 for this. So we can say what we want. We'll see how the seedings shake out, but I'm not ruling that out.
Maxey was a player of the game. Close second was Oubre and then Embiid. Absolutely agree, Barry. I have a lot of highlight reels to make tomorrow morning. I'm not looking forward to that, especially at 4 a.m. Brandon says, who do you think we have the best chance to beat in the first round?
Part of the reason I'm anxious and hoping to get that 6th seed is I'm licking my chops at a first-round matchup with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with.
Yeah, I would love nothing more. I frankly think the Sixers team could beat the Cavs with or without Joel Embiid, and the fact that they do have him, like I would put it like 95% chance. I think the Sixers do win that series. Cavs are a fine team. They're a weirdly constructed team, but that's the matchup that I've circled. Also, I want to point out that the Orlando Magic are right on the Cavs' heels as well. So if they sneak up to that 3rd seed, would absolutely love a Magic Sixers first round matchup as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the return of Mo Bamba.
That match game. Yeah.
The thought of Kelly Oubre playing next to Paul George. That's fun to think about. Any thoughts on DJ Wilson?
I think the 10-day expired, I believe, unfortunately. I
It
will
just
note I liked him. I would have liked to see a little bit more of him, but I do think that's over. And the other point I'll throw in here is they did officially upgrade Jeff Doughton to a standard NBA deal, so he'll be with the team the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's who it is. All right, let's get into our team grades. Don't you feel it? Sweetness and light for my restless mind. Please give me a way to escape this world gone astray. You could give me a little peace of mind in these troubled times. Oh man, first playoff stretch without Furkan Korkmaz, man. Doesn't feel right.
For real.
How would you grade today's performance, bro?
It's an A+, man. You can nitpick stuff. You can have issues with some of the missed shots, the execution, decision making, but this is the best win of the season. I don't want to get that lost here. This was a game that clearly meant something from a seedings perspective, clearly meant something from an emotional standpoint of knowing you can beat a legitimate Eastern Conference threat, a team that went to the finals last year and is that good of a team. So I think this meant a ton. They found a way to get the job done. I give it an A+. And again, you can nitpick some stuff that they didn't do right, but for me, this is the biggest win of the season.
I agree. This was A+. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid leading you. They had, I mean, it's Embiid's second game back. They struggled against a really good defense, one of the best coached teams in the league. Yep. That zone is going to be a major issue heading in the playoffs, and they squeaked it out. They squeaked it out, and that's all you need. And they did it by having some big moments on defense. Kelly Oubre, if he's going to be this second half kind of wizard for the Philadelphia 76ers, man, it's going to be a lot of fun because I remember watching the Sixers last year and George Niang and PJ Tucker and getting all excited if they scored a bucket. But Kelly Oubre could be that secret weapon for us come playoff time. Where the heck is Goat Maz now? I have no idea.
No one signed him.
He's not in the NBA?
Yeah, he got no contract from anybody. It's disappointing. He deserves another run with somebody. He's still young, too. He's like 25, which is crazy.
That sucks, man. He's going to make a lot of money overseas. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Any chance Kai Jones gets the last spot? Probably not.
Probably not. I would like to give Kai Jones another look. I was disappointed that we only saw one game of the G League and then he hurt his hamstring and then was out for the extension of his 10-day contract. So I was disappointed. He did look good in that lone G League opportunity. And I'm a guy that's always going to believe in talent. And Kai Jones is a guy that has the top end talent. I give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt of a guy that kind of messed up his opportunity, was a little bit, who knows what went down or what happened, but kind of blew the chance with the Hornets. And I do think like it's fair to give these guys who he's still 21, 22 years old another chance. And I wouldn't mind it being in a Sixers uniform, but I think it's unlikely it happens.
I would love to see him play in the summer league.
Yeah. He's a good, I do think like he's an NBA talent. I do really believe that. Yeah.
If we can get him in Vegas for the summer league with Ricky Council and Turk and some other guys, that could be really fun. Because I do think Kai Jones has, like you said, Sean, some upside as a small ball 5, small ball big to run with this second unit. So there's definitely something there. All right, let's wrap it up, Sean. Any final thoughts, plugs? Anything?
Yeah, we're back, baby. We're back. That this Sixers team is back. So it's good vibes from here on out. That I do think that we are in for another fun, exciting, and hopeful playoff stretch. And it was looking dark that would be a possibility for a lot of this year. So let's feel good about that. Let's go to bed on that. And I appreciate all you guys tuning in. So yeah, I'm back in and locked in.
What's going on at Fox Sports The Gambler, man? I know
there's got a ton of WrestleMania stuff, which I will put my hand up is not my main thing, but I will be behind the sticks doing a lot of producing. So I'm letting those guys take the shine for a lot of that. But if you're into that, I know we got Ric Flair coming through for a Green Legion broadcast on Saturday that they're doing at Xfinity Live. I know they got a bunch of other stuff throughout the weekend. They'll be broadcast from the convention center tomorrow. So a ton of fun stuff from the WrestleMania side of things. So make sure you're tapping in with Fox Sports The Gambler for all of that, or Fox Sports The Wrestler, which we're going by this week.
As a big Dwayne Johnson guy, it was not okay seeing him throw slander at Jalen Hurts today. I did not like that. It was very uncomfortable.
Also, he's lost 2 playoff games, man. Like, what do you mean? Let's pump the brakes here.
All he's done is win.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be back. Who do they play next? Let's look up the schedule.
They play Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, I believe, is against the Spurs. Saturday is against the Grizzlies. So back-to-back there, both winnable games. I assume Joel won't play both.
Yeah. Definitely something to watch. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. He is Sean Bernard. I am Dives. We'll see you next time. Stay awesome, everyone.